or we'll see. We'll see if the mic changes it. Hello and welcome to the Hoopets podcast. It's Mike Linsing here with my co-host Jason who? Jason Sunkel
Jason's uncle.
tonight.
I mean, yeah,
Welcome,
that's all right, Mike.
welcome,
Listen,
man.
we're a day. It's my fault. We're a day late. So, I
Hey, you're looking healthy. You're looking healthy and spry over
listen.
there.
Let me just tell you this much. I was not feeling great all weekend. I thought I had recovered, and then yesterday, like halfway through the day, like I just felt like something had, like a sledgehammer had hit me over the head, and then unfortunately I had a game which we lost. We won't go into semantics on that one. And despite my nap on the way to the game and the nap on the way back on the bus, I was still I was still in some desperate need of some sleep last night. So I was in bed at 9:05, which all my coworkers, when I told them I went to bed at 9:05 yesterday, because they know I'm up till most nights midnight watching NBA or later. Um, it worked out though, because with no NBA on, it wasn't like I was dying to stay up last night. Like, not that I wasn't dying to hear your new microphone, Mike, but I just was like,
I understand.
I
I
I
understand.
needed to get the rest. I needed to get it. So, yeah. So we're gonna talk All Star Game. We're gonna talk some comments made by Doc Rivers and maybe the subsequent JJ Redick versus Pat Bev feud that's going on right now. But before we do that, Mike, did you see the Cavs are getting some recognition? They got moved to 2 primetime games. Did you see this?
I did not see that they changed
Yeah,
the
there
schedule.
are, and by
So
national TV games, they're coming up soon. The March 5th game is now going to be against Boston, is now on TNT, and the March 8th game, 3 days later, is now on ESPN against the Timberwolves. So
two
the
good
cat.
games.
My favorite tweet was ESPN announcers pretending like they understand anyone that's on the Cavs or the Timberwolves, because they haven't had any primetime games on ESPN but one, I think. So it was just a funny one. But I did see two stats, Mike. Two stats that I thought I'd share with you to start the podcast off. There's only one player in NBA history, and I don't know that I've ever asked this question, but I'm going to ask it now. There's only one player in NBA history that's been an All-Star 15 plus times. He's been on the All NBA list 15 times, and he's been an All Defensive Player 15 times. Can you name that one player?
15 plus All Stars, 15 plus
All NBAs
All
and all.
NBA teams, and 15 plus
No, just
all
15.
defensive
It's
teams.
it's just
15.
15 all
Just
defensive and
15.
15 plus on both the other
Okay.
things, though.
Man. Um, well, it's obviously somebody who has a tremendous amount of longevity.
Agreed.
When you start thinking longevity, to me, there's three guys that come to mind.
Okay,
It's not LeBron because he has not made that many all defensive teams. So
that's
the other
accurate.
two guys are Kareem Abdul Jabbar and Carl Malone.
Well, you would be wrong so far.
Really? So I need somebody else with longevity. 15
He
All
beat the
Star
Cavs in the
games.
finals in 2007.
Tim Duncan.
That's it. That's
Wow.
crazy, isn't it?
15 all defensive teams. That's pretty impressive. Yeah. I guess it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, and the other one, which we've already kind of covered before, Mike. Okay, most wins in the 2020s is who by player?
George Niang. George
George
Niang.
Niang. He has 210 wins in the 2020s. Can you name any? The next team is the next three players are 11 games behind him. Like 11. It's not even like 3 or 4. It's 11
These are
games.
regular season games. This is regular season
Regular
and
season
playoffs or regular.
most. It says most wins in the 2020s. Uh, I'll see if I can figure that out. But he has 210, and then, well, I mean, the 76ers have been in the playoffs, so it's not like.
That's based on games played too, right? So you can't have a
Mm-hmm.
guy who sat out a
Oh, no,
ton.
it doesn't. It does include the playoffs, Mike. So he still has the most wins, despite the fact that he's in the play. That's
So I'm looking
crazy.
for the next two
He has
guys
to be. He has to.
beyond.
He has to have play. They have to play in the game in order for it to count. Like if he doesn't play in the game, he doesn't get a win. So like for example,
I
like
understand.
Embiid has missed so many games,
Right.
and those
Correct.
games don't.
Understood. Understood. Well, all right. Can I preface it with one ask?
Yes, you can.
So, are the players that we're looking for, are they these all-star level players, or are these
I would
players
say two
below
of the
all-star
three are
level?
definitely all-star. Two of the three of them were in that, if you want to call it an all-star game on Sunday, which we'll get to in a second.
So I would probably say Jokic.
That's one. One you're not a fan of. The
And
other one you're not a huge fan of.
the other one I'm not a huge fan of, Jason Tatum.
There you go. There's the other one.
And I have one more who's a non
This is a
all-star
hard.
level
This is a hard.
player.
I mean, so like he's probably a fringe in a certain world. Like he's not on the team, but he's not someone that you would be like.
I
It's
got
not.
you. Right. He's not a 12th man.
No. Yeah. He's on a
Okay.
team that we may have played in a different country this year.
He's on a team that we may have played in a different country.
Well, that should help you a
Meaning
little
that
bit.
meaning that he played in the World Cup in the Philippines
No, 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 no,
for a
no, no,
different
no, no,
country.
no, 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 no. We played this team in a different country this year. It was a special trip that the
Oh,
Cavs
we
took.
played when
Yeah.
you said we, I was thinking we as in USA.
No, yeah, no, 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 no. The Cavs. We played them. Sorry.
So that would have to be Mikal Bridges.
That is correct. That's crazy. I mean, he was on
That
those Suns
seems
teams.
odd.
He was on the Suns teams though. You got to remember he was on the
And I
Suns
guess he
team.
plays. You're right. It basically comes down to who plays a
He
lot.
plays all the games. So, but Jordan
Yeah.
Yang has 11 win game gap on those three guys. That's hilarious.
Nice
It
work.
has
Bang, bang.
it has widened this year because Tatum missed a few of their wins, and Niang has not missed a game this year.
Adding his stats, baby.
Anyways, okay, so those are my two things that I had for you, Mike. I thought those were
Okay.
those things I saw exciting. So
I want to start with a question for you.
yes,
Do you care if the All-Star game is good, bad? Does it matter to you in any way?
It doesn't matter because I'll be honest with you, Mike. Sunday was the day I didn't watch a minute of the All-Star game, and I did not feel like I missed anything. I mean, obviously I didn't, based on the only thing I missed was Adam Silver's award presentation.
Sarcastic commentary.
You scored more points. Listen, here's the bottom line. I just don't think there's any way that they're going to incentivize these guys to play. Like, when was the last good All-Star game? It was the one in Cleveland, right? That was the last good All-Star game. It was
First year of the Elam ending.
First year of the Elam ending. It was the 75-year anniversary, like the 75 greatest players. So I think the players kind of felt like they had to do something. Okay. To be honest with you, Mike, the only thing that matters to me is that they fixed, like they somehow, like, the Saturday night thing is way more important to me than the All-Star game. And I don't know why that is. It's not like, obviously in the 90s, it was both days were huge, but I feel like the Saturday night thing is more important because I don't know, it just is. And I think here's my point of view. I think maybe that's more fixable and more attainable to be fixable if they do the right things, because I don't think that you're going to do anything to get the All-Star game to matter for people, because I understand, like, some people have been making arguments that they made a change and made the in-season tournament, and they put more money on listen, I think the in-season tournament thing, it worked because there are guys that are on the team that aren't making a lot of money. And there are players who are making a lot of money saying, you know what, we want to fight for these guys who aren't making a lot of money to get some money. All of the All-Stars are making a lot of money for the most part. Obviously, there's a few outliers that are not making like a huge amount of money. They're still making a good amount of money. But I just don't think there's anything. I think they need to. I think you could continue to focus on the Saturday night aspect and fix it, because majority of what happened on Saturday night was abysmal. The 3-point contest was fine, right? That was fine. I don't have any problems with 3-point contest. It was good. I thought the Steph Curry versus Sabrina, that was the second most compelling thing that happened. Maybe the most compelling thing that happened is she would have kicked their butts. Almost everyone that shot in the 3-point contest, she would have won. The only reason she lost was because she was going against Steph Curry. Okay. I thought that was intriguing. Just keep away from Kenny Smith's comments. We're just going to leave it at that. We're like, we're gonna Kenny Smith had been partaking in some adult beverages, I have a feeling, while that was going on. But I think that was the second most compelling thing that happened in Saturday night, and that, quite frankly, that's a problem. I don't know what your take is on that, but I think Saturday night is more fixable than the All-Star game, and I don't care about the All-Star game. I guess, which is really sad because I used to really like the All-Star game, and when I was like not feeling good, I was like, oh, I guess I'm gonna miss the All-Star game. Oopsies. I don't care that much.
So can I ask you a follow-up question?
Certainly. Go ahead.
If the game was played at a more competitive level, would you care about it?
Yeah. Do you think, here's a question. Can I throw a question at you?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know your opinion. I mean, I think I know where your opinion is. You probably are annoyed by the All-Star game and think that it should be better. Would that be a fair assessment?
I definitely think it should be better. I mean, I get it that it's an exhibition game. I get it that these guys make millions and millions and millions of dollars and nobody wants to risk getting hurt. But at a certain point, you're basketball players. Like you can't play or you don't want to play with the other 23 best players in the world on the floor. I don't get it. So that's, I guess, my answer to the first part of your question. I don't know if you have more.
Yeah, my question was, do you think if they change we've gotten radical a little bit with the four we did the Elam ending. If they change the format to something similar to what they do with the Rising Stars, where they're not playing a full game, but they're playing the segmented game, is there any chance the game is more competitive because the guys are only playing this, and make it a tournament style thing, and have them play like there's four teams of the, however many there's the four teams of six, and they go one team goes at it, another team goes at it, and then the second round another team goes at it and the two winning teams go at it for like, make it 10-minute games. Is that something that would maybe make it more competitive and like have a little dangle some kind of carrot for the winning six players? Because I think that might be affordable and something the NBA could do and be like, the winner of the 4-team tournament gets $5 million and splits $6 million. Each player gets $1 million, and then they each get a Kia because the NBA is sponsored by Kia still, right? So I don't know. I'm just saying, like, is that more attainable than let's fix the whole game? And because quite frankly, a team scoring 200 and another team scoring 180, that's not like that's oh sweet, they scored a lot of points, but there's no defense being played. Like,
You could argue there's really no offense being played either. I mean, so it's
the
just atrocious. Okay,
Jokic and Luka tossing it back and forth up the court.
I mean, there was so many farcical moments in that game. You can't even list them all. So let me address a couple of different things you said. One, I don't think money is going to make a difference. Maybe it motivates somebody for one season. I think the effect of money eventually wears off, right? There's all these workplace studies and different things that you read that look, everybody likes to be paid more, but at a certain point, it's the satisfaction of what you're doing and the intrinsic motivation that ultimately determines whether or not you're going to do your best. And I think, sure, if you offered them a cash prize, maybe for a year, it would get guys to play a little bit harder, but that extra cash would I think, wear off fairly quickly. And then as far as changing the format, I feel like it's the same thing. Like, could an interesting format like the Elam ending that for 1 year everybody's like, "Oh, check this out, and let's see what this feels like." And then once the shine kind of comes off that, it's like, "All right, now what are we doing?" And so to me, it still feels like there has to be a way, and I don't think there's a way. I honestly don't know that there's anything that the league can do, right? Because this year there was all the talk of Andre Iguodala, Joe Dumars, Adam Silver, all went to these guys and said, "Hey, we want to have a more competitive game." And it sounds like they were assured by the players in that locker room that the game was going to be more competitive. And then the game started, and it clearly was not competitive. Now, you and I last time went through our lists of, I told you I thought the East would win, even though the West probably had a better roster, because I thought the Eastern Conference had more guys that cared. And I think if we went back and compared the list of who we thought was going to care and who we thought wasn't going to care, there was a lot more guys on the they
East.
didn't
Yeah.
really care at
Well,
all.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I mean, there was a lot more guys on the did not care list than I think what you and I originally had, and we had a fair number on there to start with. And so I don't know how you change the mentality. I do think that you have to go Eastern Conference versus Western Conference. I think I've heard the U.S. versus the world, but then when you're forced to say we can only take guys from the U.S. on this team, we can only take guys from the world on this team, inevitably you're going to end up with guys who are on the All-Star team who shouldn't be there, and
Scotty
guys who
Barnes.
should be there that aren't. Scotty Barnes was fine in that game. Look, I
The-
don't know if
the-
he belonged in the game, but he was fine in the game. I just think when you look at it, it has to come from somebody or some group of somebodies that are just like, hey, we're going to actually try in this game. And I don't know what it is. Like, maybe Trey Young was trying to get it going when he dribbled between Durant's legs and scored just to get somebody angry. It feels like you need a group of 3, 4, 5 guys to just decide, like, hey, we're going to play this thing out hard. And
I
right
I guarantee
now,
you, Mike. I guarantee you, Mike. If Garland, Mobley, and Mitchell were all on the same team, they would have played hard together. Agree or disagree? You don't agree?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure Donovan Mitchell put forth much of an effort.
Well, I
He
mean, he
seemed
also.
he seemed to be he seemed to be highly disinterested in the proceedings. Let's
Well,
put it
I
that
mean,
way.
I did. Well, listen. I mean, listen. The other problem that you had was it was in Indiana. They probably didn't have much to do but go out to the bars the night before. So they probably were out late the night before the All Star game.
Well, there's always going to be parties. I mean, that's part of what the whole All-Star situation is those guys are going and they're
Yeah.
meeting with sponsors and they're going to these different events and whatever. And I'm sure that the game is a semi low priority item for some of these guys, but
Yeah.
it just I just feel like somebody has to kind of take the competitive reins and be like, all right, we're actually going to compete. And look, are you ever going to get 24 guys
No,
to
but you should
compete
be.
as hard as they can? Probably not. But it feels like over the course of a game, if you had 3, 4, 5 guys that just said, hey, we're going to play a little bit of defense, we're going to give a little bit of effort, that maybe those 3, 4, 5 core guys could drag along another 3, 4, 5 guys. And now suddenly in the fourth quarter, you could have something that at least resembles real basketball where guys are trying to defend each other. And the number of full court heaves and 50-foot threes and just ridiculousness in this game was, and look, it's always started out first half, not a lot of defense played, lots of up and down and long shots and dunks and alley oops and all that kind of stuff. And then as it went along, it got to be a little bit closer to resembling real basketball. And we've gotten to the point in the last few years where these games don't ever resemble real basketball. And that's a problem. And so I guess I go back to my question that I asked you right off the top. Do you care whether or not the All-Star game is good. And I guess what I would say is if the All-Star game is going to be like this, I'm not sure that I care what happens in the All-Star game. Like I remember as a kid and even into my early adulthood, like who won the All-Star MVP was like a huge thing. Like, I mean, I look forward to watching the game. I look forward to finding out who's going to win the MVP, who's, which, what city's it in, and then that guy is he have the does he get a little bit of favoritism because he's at home, and now it just feels like, I mean, I don't know, it's like a giant game of horse. It's just, it was not, it was not compelling television in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know that there's anything fundamentally like making it the mini games or adding more money or changing it to make it USA versus the world. I don't know if any of that stuff matters until you find a couple competitive players that are just going to say, hey, if nobody else wants to play, we're going to at least play some defense and we're going to blow you out. And maybe you're okay with that. Maybe it doesn't matter. Or maybe that knocks into somebody else's pride. And all of a sudden you get some guys that are competing. And nobody's asking them to go like it's game 7 of the NBA finals, but you could at least put up a little bit of resistance and maybe if the game's close, play at 80% capacity in the last 5 minutes of the game and just kind of have some fun with it. So if the game's going to continue the way it is now, then whatever. I don't know that I really care. However, having witnessed in my lifetime some really good all-star games that were competitive and where it felt like it was somewhat of a measuring stick amongst guys, going back in my memory and being able to relive that and then looking at what we have today, it's disheartening because I guess what it comes down to for me is I guess I do care about the All-Star game because it just when I watch it, I'm disappointed. And if I didn't care about it, I guess I wouldn't be disappointed if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that point of view too, but I think like obviously the NFL has pivoted and gone completely away from the Pro Bowl, which was I always felt like the
Right.
Pro Bowl was stupid because it was after the season was over and what do these guys got to do to play other than get hurt? Um, Major League Baseball
You're
still.
a baseball. You're a baseball guy. What about the baseball All-Star game? How do you feel
I'm
about
I'm
that?
all
Like as a kid, I watched. I mean, I always watched the
listen.
baseball All-Star
I
game.
mean,
Always wanted to
I
see it.
still remember when the All-Star game was here. I still have my favorite story to tell about that All-Star game. Like, I don't know if I've told this on the podcast. I was not at the game, but my friend, one of my best friends, he was a best man in my wedding. Brendo Skoronsky was at the All-Star game, and when Sandy hit the home run, he may have been on the toilet and missed it at the All-Star game.
It's not good.
No, it's not good. It's something we've never let him live down because he was at the game in the bleachers. In the
Missed
bleachers,
the biggest
nonetheless.
moment.
And he missed the biggest moment. That will forever live in infamy. I still tune into the Major League Baseball All-Star game. I still tune into the Home Run Derby. Um, I still remember forcing my family to watch the stupid celebrity softball game. I enjoy watching the celebrity softball game. I didn't tune into a minute of the celebrity basketball game. Did you watch any of that?
I did not. No, I did not.
Did you watch
I did not.
did you watch the Rising Stars at all?
I did not.
I watched the bits and
I don't think
pieces.
I've watched. I haven't watched that in. It's been a long time since I
I
watched that.
Bates played pretty
Long
well in
time.
that game, by the way, just so you know. Just putting it out there.
There you go.
In his
Nice.
and then I watched everything on Saturday night. That was the one thing I sat and watched everything of. Did you watch it all on Saturday night?
Yeah, I watched Saturday night. Let's wrap the All-Star game here. I have a couple more comments on the game itself, and then let's
Okay.
get to
We're running against it, Mike. Let's go.
I know we are. Okay, so here's my takeaway from the All-Star game. There are multiple guys that as I watch the All-Star game, and I guess I always try to put in context of would that guy be fun to play with? And there were two guys from one team that clearly, and I don't know what it is specifically about them, but that I just would never want to play for with them. Do you know which two guys I'm talking about?
I mean,
They're teammates. They're
I
teammates.
Eastern or Western Conference?
Eastern Conference teammates.
Oh, it's got to be Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown.
Yeah, like I just
I knew it.
look, here's why. The game's a farce, right? I mean, it's a farce. So everybody is just shooting and
Like
doing
this?
whatever.
Was it a farce like this, Mike?
Yes, it was.
Like the
I
no.
mean, yeah, whatever. So, but the farce within the farce was that when those two guys got the ball, it was like suddenly everything else around them stopped and they were just going to go one on one, even though no one was even guarding them. It was just, I don't know. Maybe it's just my general disdain for the Celtics and the fact that I'm not really a big Tatum guy as it is. But I came away from that game going, God, I would never want to play with those two guys. And it's no wonder that they never have been able to break through and get a title. So again, I don't know that I can point to anything specific. It just felt like they were two guys who, when you gave them the ball in a pickup game, you knew you weren't getting it back. And that's how I
Yep.
felt when I watched those two guys. Not that anybody else was that much different, but there was just something that came through my television screen that I'm like, why are these two guys just going one on one every time? It was just weird. I don't know. I had a feeling that those were two guys that I would not want to play with. And then I think the other guy that stood out to me as, I mean, clearly Jokic, we knew wasn't going to care. Luka, we knew wasn't going to care. Anthony Edwards just shooting left-handed, which I know we'll talk about on the Saturday night thing, but couldn't have been more disinterested in the All-Star game or All-Star weekend, seemingly. That to me was, I guess, a little bit surprising because I thought he would care. And then we already talked about Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell was completely checked out of that game. I mean, he dribbled down, he passed, he didn't even look to shoot, do anything. He was completely checked out. So those were the things that stood out to me from an individual standpoint. And then the other thing was Carl Anthony Towns. I mean, did he want to? How bad did he want to score 50?
He wanted to do
He
it, and
wanted to.
then Finch would have sat him in the next game.
That's right. I was waiting for Finch. I was waiting for Finch to pull him out. Like, this is probably what he looked like when he was trying to go for 60.
Yeah.
I can't take Carl Anthony Towns seriously. I just can't. Look, Minnesota's first in the Western Conference right now, and maybe they're set up for playoff success. But whenever I watch Towns, he just has too many clown tendencies. Like, he's driving in for those layups. He's got these big goofy grin on his face, and like, good. I'm glad he's having fun, but I don't know if he's your second best guy.
You're not
I'm
winning.
not. I'm not
You're,
sure. I'm
you're
not
not.
sure. I'm
You're not
buying.
buying. Okay.
I'm not buying Minnesota as an NBA Finals team. I just. I know they're good. I know they're having a heck of a year. I know Edwards is great despite what we saw this weekend. But
Mike Conley just got a
man,
contract extension, right?
yeah, good move by Minnesota. I don't know if Towns is your second best guy. I don't know, man. I can't take him seriously. Like, every time I see his face, he's just got like a goofy grin or a smirk or like, I don't know. I'm out. I'm out on Towns. I'm out.
All right. So Saturday night, I kind of
Saturday
already
night,
said
let's
my
go for it.
piece. I already said my piece for Saturday night. I don't know.
Okay.
So you want to add what you said?
Let's take
Want
them
to say?
one at a time. Let's take them one at a time. Skills challenge, yes or no?
I mean, I'm okay with it. It's all right.
It's a hard no. In its current form, it's like a carnival show. The passing, couldn't figure out anything that was going on there.
Yeah, that
The
passing thing's
windmill,
whack.
yeah, the windmill that they're shooting over in the corner. The fact that don't they go over the rules with these guys? They don't know which cones to dribble around. They don't know where they're
Scotty
going. They
Barnes
have to
losing
have
the
officials
ball.
out there.
Scotty Barnes losing the ball, and then in
Yeah,
head shooting it backwards on the.
it was. I don't know. Look, the skills challenge I can do without. Then now, how long when the Cavs won it? How long did it take them to make a half court shot? Like 9 seconds, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, 56
And those
seconds it
two
was.
teams,
It was pitiful.
yeah, those two teams shot what would. I mean, it was forever, forever. I mean, I never would have guessed. I mean, you figure those guys, they're goofing around at the end of practice all the time. I figured I mean, max like 20 seconds to get one of them to make one of those half court shots. Anyway, to me, the skills challenge, the idea of a skills challenge, I think is intriguing, but I guess I could do without all
It's better
the.
than horse though.
But see, horse could be cool again if you got guys to buy into it and they really cared about what they were doing. And there was some drama. Like when they did horse, didn't they do that during the COVID year during the bubble? And one guy was in, I know Conley was in like his gym at his house and they're shooting against somebody that's not even there. Like if you're in the same room, it feels like then you can get some trash talking and there could be, I think there's a way to make horse interesting. I mean, I think the most interesting thing would be if you could get like a little one-on-one tournament going, which again,
King of the court,
you're not
king
going
of
to
the
get
court.
guys. Yeah, you're not going to get guys to play in that.
How about
But
this
if
one?
you
How about this
could,
one, Mike?
what
What if they did a knockout?
knockout would be fun.
And an
See, to me,
NBA
knockout would be.
an NBA half court knockout. Go for that. They could all do that. Or even top of the
You
key
wouldn't
three
even
point
need a
line.
half court. You just need a half. You just need to do it 3 point. I mean, you just do it from the 3 point line. I think it'd be. I think that could be. That could be a fun, and that would be quick too. You know what I mean? You just boom. It could be. Let's have
Listen,
guards at this
I'd get
end.
excited. I'd get excited if they just did the on TNT crew. Let's get those
Yeah,
guys out there. Charles,
I think
Kenny,
knockout would be
Ernie,
fun.
Shaq.
Yeah,
Like I just think the skills is I agree that it's I mean I'm okay with it. Do I love it? No, but I'm okay with it.
there's too much. It's too gizmoized. It would be just like I'd like to see. Hey, let's see who's fastest going up and down the floor, dribbling around cones, or let's see who can get from one. Kind of like buzzer beater. What about buzzer beater?
Yeah, they don't know that drill. They got to steal that from the College of Worcester.
They're not going to do that for going up and down the court that many times. But it'd be fun to just see them, whatever, race around cones, do a team relay dribbling race, do I, I don't know. I guess I just don't need all the props. I don't need the windmill in the corner from to shoot over. I don't need all the dribbling around these big things. I don't need the passing. There's got to be a better way to be able to somehow measure skills that is easily consumable by the average NBA fan without all the things that kind of get in the way of really identifying who's skilled and who's not. And again, I don't know how you do that, but I think you could, as it is, I would eliminate the skills challenge. So let's get that thing out of here, and or let's try to improve it in some way.
All right, 3 point contest. I told you I'm good with it. I thought it was good. It was probably the best part of the night. So that's where I'm at, right?
Yeah,
I
I mean
mean,
the 3 point contest. I think I don't know that there's much that needs to be changed. I think it's always an event because you have 6, 7. What they have 8? Do they have 8 guys this year or 6?
it was 8.
So you got 8 guys shooting. You're always going to have, because of the nature of how it's set up with the minute, the scoring, that there's going to be lots of scores right in that same vicinity. So it's going to come down to the last shot or two or the last rack, whatever it is, which always makes it exciting. And the reality is that when you look around the NBA and you think about the improvement in skill level, the number one thing that players are better at today than they were 20 years ago is the ability to shoot the ball. Guys at all different positions, all different sizes. The shooting right now is just unbelievable. And that's reflected in the 3 point contest, just in the depth of guys that are in the contest and also the guys that didn't get invited that would probably be excellent participants as well. So I think because everybody's such a good shooter, it just usually comes down to that last rack or that last ball. And that makes the event exciting. Plus the fact that you still have guys that are marketable, that are stars, that are participating in the 3 point contest. So you had multiple all stars participating in that versus the dunk contest, which we'll get to in a second. So I still think the 3 point contest, all things being equal, in the history of my life, I certainly prefer the dunk contest over the 3 point contest. But probably where we are in the historical arc of those two events, I'd say right now the 3 point contest is probably more entertaining simply because you have more well known players in the 3-point contest than you do in the dunk contest, where you
Sam
don't even have
Merrill would have
guys who
won if he would have competed, though.
maybe.
I do respect Donovan wearing the Money Merrill shirt, though. That was jersey. That was pretty awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah. All right. Dunk contest. I mean, the bottom line is this. All right. We thought for sure the Jaylen Brown rig was in when he got through to the finals. I thought I was gonna rue the day that you said that on the podcast last week, and like Jaylen Brown's gonna win, and I picked Mac
Well, hey,
McClung, and there's no way that Jaylen Brown should have made it to the finals. Toppin's dunks were better. Okay, were they great? No, but they were definitely better than what Jaylen Brown did. Jaylen Brown dunked over a 5-foot streamer that's sitting on a chair. That wasn't even impressive. And he pretended to not be looking, but he was looking. Okay.
he
Like,
wasn't looking 3 seconds after he landed.
yeah. I mean, Mac McClung's dunk were pretty good. They were pretty good. They were solid. They weren't as good as last year's. His dunk over Shaq, though, that was pretty crazy. That was pretty, I mean, for a guy his stature, like, that's pretty crazy.
But he's not even in the league.
Listen, at least he can dunk. At least he can do something creative. Jaylen Brown was not creative. The freaking last dunk with the glove, give me a break. What a joke.
Hey, he
I
was doing
know.
it with his left hand, man. He was trying to
Oh,
show off
get
that,
out of
hey,
here.
he does have a handle with his left hand. Isn't that what he was trying to do?
That's what he was trying to do. That was terrible. Okay, but the bottom line is this.
When announcers were saying that, now look, I don't know if that's true or not, but when announcers are saying that, that reminds me of like your English literature professor who tells you that some guy who wrote a book 600 years ago, that they know what he was thinking when he wrote this particular passage and
Well,
how it should be interpreted.
you could also say that about some documents in U.S. history that we have that people have been
I'm
arguing
sure you
about,
could.
especially the last 10 years. But anyways, go ahead.
I'm sure you could. I don't know. Look, I'm glad Jaylen Brown participated. The only way that this contest ever becomes functional is if you get guys in it who are all-star caliber players. And if you have two guys from the G League and you have one average NBA player and one all-star NBA player.
Wait, who's the average NBA player? Javi Jaquez, is he the average
Yeah,
NBA player?
Jaime Jaquez. Yeah,
Jaime
average
Jaquez. Well,
NBA
so
player.
is Toppin playing? Is
Average.
Toppin only playing primarily in the G League?
I think. I mean, I think he's on a two-way contract,
Oh, okay.
maybe.
All right. Okay.
So, look, lots of guys. Toppin's dunks were fine. Mac McClung's dunks. I mean, clearly, the dunks that guy's doing at his size are incredible, incredible dunks, and he's fun to watch. But it's not the same watching a guy out of the G League as it would be if you were watching Zion dunk against Ja Morant. And I don't care if they do the exact same dunks. The fact of the matter is that if there's more star power, the contest is going to be more compelling. And I don't know how you fix that. I guess the one thing I would say is, does it really matter? Like, I guess you and I are semi making fun of Jaylen Brown here on the podcast, but I give him a lot of credit for going out and at least participating in the thing. And are other all stars going to look at what Jaylen Brown did and say, oh, that was embarrassing. I don't want to embarrass myself like that. Or are they going to say, man, I could do way better than that. Look, Jaylen Brown made the finals. I don't know. It's just a strange phenomenon why you wouldn't want to do that. It's not like it's super taxing. And I know you got to warm up and you got to do whatever, but basically you're talking about you got to do 4 dunks. I just think that until you get this thing figured out and you get stars back in it, you're going to catch lightning in a bottle every once in a while and get a guy like McClung who can do some incredible dunks and is creative and comes up with some new stuff. But the fact of the matter is that it's really hard to be creative. I mean, you're talking about let's dunk a basketball on a 10-foot hoop. There's only so many things that you can do. There's a limit to human performance and what guys are capable of doing. The difference is, again, if we were watching an all NBA type player do those dunks that Mac McClung did, we would be way more excited than we are when Mac McClung does them. And that's what it comes down to. And then I also feel like there's been a ton of grade inflation in the dunk contest. And you can go back and look at dunk contests over the last, whatever, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And if the guy did a poor dunk, he got a bad score. Now we're at the point where
Oh,
every dunk is a 47 or a 48, no matter how bad it is. And so I get it, I guess, to some degree, but you got to have at least some real judging, especially when you start out and like the very first dunk of the night. It's like, dunk wasn't very good. And all of a sudden, that dunk's a 48. Well, guess what, man? There's not very much room to go up from a 48. I remember in previous contests, like in years past, that the guys who went first, a lot of times, they kind of got the short end of the stick because nobody knew what was coming next. We're like, man, that's a really good dunk, but I can't give that dunk a 49 because who knows what's coming next. And
who
those
was the
first,
Magic player? Was it that got 25 because he did a layup?
oh, Daryl Anderson. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Daryl Anderson.
That's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, Mike. I think this is. I feel like this has been a conversation that we've had like the last 3 years, and
Yeah, it is.
like I don't think there's a way to fix it. And I think Kendrick Perkins said it on the what is it, First Take, that LeBron broke the dunk contest. It's his fault.
Yeah, LeBron not participating, I think, sort of dissuaded everybody else
I mean,
from
but you listen,
participating.
but then you could go back and look at the 2016 dunk contest, right? It was 2016. That was the year, the really good one, the Aaron Gordon versus Zach LaVine dunk contest.
Was that long ago?
It was either 2016 or 2018. I'm just, one of those two, Mike. Like that was a really, 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 really good dunk contest. Like just the dunk after dunk after dunk, and they ended up going to like they kept getting 50s, right? Both of them kept. They ended up going extra,
Yeah,
extra, extra. Like that was a great dunk contest. That's probably the last good dunk contest. I mean,
I agree. And
do you
those two
like?
are not, and those two guys are not perennial all NBA type players. I mean,
But
they're good players. They're
yeah,
players that people have heard
they're
of.
serviceable. They're serviceable. Unlike, I mean, Jaylen Brown was the only player that's serviceable, really, and that was in the dunk contest year. And yeah, oh
Guys will
well.
be serviceable. But yeah, I get your point. I just don't think it still comes down to star power. And you got to have somebody that the public knows, and you got to have somebody with a little bit of showmanship. And it still doesn't feel right that, hey, we're having a dunk contest and two of our dudes that are in it out of the four aren't
Aren't
even
even
in the
me.
league.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we can't find four guys in the NBA who can dunk. It seems ridiculous to me that you can't find four guys that want to participate in this thing. It just feels like, I don't know, let's put it this way. If you could dunk, it seems like a dunk contest would be kind of fun regardless of whether you win or you lose, just to be able to participate in it. But
Yeah. I
I
can
don't know.
dunk on my little Tykes hoop I have over here, Mike.
There you go. That's it. Hey, I don't know about you, but you can't even do some of those dunks that they're doing. I couldn't even do those even in my heyday when I was in the best shape of my life. There's some of those dunks those guys are doing. I couldn't do those dunks on an 8-foot rim, even when I was in the best condition of my life at age 22.
You couldn't jump over
I mean,
Shaq?
it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm not even talking about jumping over whatever. Just throwing the ball or turning your body in different ways, or just
The
being able
one
to
the one
stay
that
up
he
long
did,
enough to put
Mike,
the ball between your legs.
the one that Mac did where he tossed the ball twice and dunked it.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh, I'm telling you, you couldn't do that on a 6-foot rim. Like people have no idea how hard it is to do those dunks. And kudos to Mac McClung. Like he's been, yes, last year and this year, the creativity that guy showed and the ability to jump at his
Does he
size
go
to do
for a
what he's
three-peat
done.
next year? He goes for a three-peat, right? They're gonna bring him back
Oh,
again.
why? I mean, you have to, right? I
It's
mean,
where he's making his bread and butter, right? He's got to.
right. Plus, it's probably
And the
plus for him. I don't know what you win, $100,000, but if you're in the G League, $100,000, it's pretty good money for doing it for winning a dunk contest. Again, if you're an NBA All Star, it's probably not very much incentive, but if
And
you're
he
in the
gets
G
to
League,
fly out.
$100,000
He
is
gets to
pretty good.
fly out. He gets to fly out and be at, where's
Yeah,
the All-Star game next year? You know?
I should know because they talked about it, but I don't know
I
off the
don't know.
top of my head. I can't think of where it is.
All right.
I don't know.
All right. So
Steph
that's
and
where we're,
Sabrina, Steph and Sabrina, Steph and Sabrina.
yeah, I mean, I already said my piece on that too, Mike.
I liked it. It was interesting. I
It's
wonder
at
what
Golden State,
the
Mike. It's in Golden State.
okay, there you go. I wonder what the negotiations were behind the scenes as far as figuring out who was going to go first and how it was going to work. When she went first, my initial thought was, all right, well, she goes first. Whatever score she posts, Steph's going to beat her by one or two. And if he's got some balls left in the rack, he's going to kind of, I don't want to say throw it, but he's not going to beat her by a lot. And then boom, she comes out and just shoots the lights out. And he's got to really come through. And again, like we said earlier, it went all the way down to the last rack and the last ball or two for him to be able to win. And look, I think the one thing that you could say about the women's game unequivocally is no matter what you think about it, that the shooting in the women's game, and actually I was having this discussion with my father-in-law over the weekend, and we were just looking at comparing shooting percentages when you start talking about free throw percentage, 3-point percentage in the men's game in the NBA versus the women's game in the WNBA.
Probably better field goal percentage, I would guess, right?
Honestly, it's about the same. The women were actually a little bit lower on threes, and I believe they were a little bit higher shooting free throws. So I guess the point here is that from a shooting standpoint, the women, that's one skill where I think that it's comparable. The skill and just being able to shoot the ball, especially in a contest environment like that, it's pretty similar.
I
Now,
mean,
there's a lot of things again that you could talk about with the women's game that obviously there's just a level of physicality and speed or
yeah,
whatever that gender doesn't allow you to do if you're a female player
yeah.
versus a male player.
I'm
But when you start talking about the skill level, just the raw skill level of the player, the skill level in the women's game is incredible. And
and
Sabrina obviously showed that with her ability
yeah,
to shoot the ball,
and
which would have gotten her into the finals of the quote real 3-point
yeah,
contest.
I look at like even a personal example for me, like at open gyms, Paige Kohler, who's now playing for Bowling Green, she'd come to the boys' open gyms and play with the boys, the and be playing with the boys' ball, and she could still shoot the lights out with the ball that she's not used to using. So I it's definitely shooting is definitely
The skill level
skill
of
level.
girls and women's basketball, the skill level, especially at the highest level of the women's game, the skill level is super, super high. And
Yeah,
again, the differences in the game result from a difference of just males versus females in terms of strength, speed, all those other body size, all those other things that kind of go along with it. But when you just talk about pure basketball skill and basketball IQ and basketball knowledge, you're talking about whatever gap there may or may not be there
yeah.
going either direction, either to the advantage of women or to the advantage of men. Those differences are very, very
Well,
slight. And
listen,
the
listen.
differences in the game come
I
down to your
I know
physicality.
it's already been stated, but if Caitlin Clark isn't involved somehow next year, if they don't do this and Caitlin Clark's not involved, I'm gonna shake my head at you, NBA. Figure it out. Figure it out. I
She'll
don't
be
care.
involved. I don't think there's any doubt that she'll be involved in some capacity. It would be a
Yeah,
major mistake not to involve her, which is crazy when you start talking about a female college senior. We're talking about that she might be important to NBA All-Star weekend next season. It's kind of crazy when you really think about it.
I mean, yeah, for sure. All right. So I guess what else? The other thing that I really wanted to talk about tonight, Mike, was Doc Rivers'
Yep.
comments and what's happened since Doc Rivers' comments about all this is hard, taking over a team middle of the season. He said that he thought when the Milwaukee Bucks called him and he responded with, "Are you crazy? You really are doing this right now?" Something along those lines. And then the venom that has been spewed back and forth between JJ Redick, Pat Beverly, Austin Rivers has gotten involved. Um, like the memeable stuff that's happened though. I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter, but like people have been saying Doc reveals that the one that's just popped up now. So I'm literally just on Twitter right now. Doc reveals that he tried to warn the DEA against Hank Schrader that Walter White was Heisenberg, like Breaking Bad reference. I saw Doc Rivers announced the Big Bang. He knew the Big Bang was going to happen before the Big Bang happened. Doc Rivers was the angel in the sky who predicted that Jesus was coming. All these different ones that have been happening because Doc Rivers supposedly trying to take credit for James Harden's renaissance as a Clipper now for whatever reason, like which he legitimately did say that part, but everything like Doc Rivers, why didn't you just say on the Bill Simmons podcast in golf with Larry David? Why are you getting yourself in this situation?
Wants to win a title, man. He wants to win a title.
Well, he's not winning a title. I'm willing to say that now. I just don't have faith. I don't have faith in the
You're
Milwaukee
putting that
Bucks.
out. You're putting that. You're
I'm putting
putting
it
that
out
out
there.
there.
This might be a hot take. I just this whole thing and listen, Pat Beverly was talking about JJ Redick's career being revitalized or that being revitalized by Doc, which that, and then Pat Beverly said that JJ Redick he got torched by James Harden when the Clippers lost the 3-1 lead to the Rockets. If I'm being honest, it should have started Jamal Crawford on Pat Beverly Pod. Well, then JJ Redick fired back with, "Luckily, the cameras in the arena have better eyes than you. I had 289 half-court matchups. Harden was 21 of 56 shooting by when I was contesting. That's a 37.5% field goal percentage, a 0.9 points per direct ISO allowed on 37 isolations. I guess that's getting torched." So JJ Redick packed it up with stats, and Pat Beverly has not responded yet. So I can't wait to see what his response is. Like, who knew? We need the NBA to come back. Although I am kind of enjoying the feud. Where do you stand on the Doc Rivers, JJ Redick, Pat Beverly, Austin Rivers nonsense? Anywhere? Or is this just
I
drama
mean,
for
if you're
drama
Doc,
per?
it's drama for drama. But if you're Doc, it's. I mean, yeah, it's tough, and I guess I don't have a big problem with him saying it's tough, but at some point, it's got to put up or shut up, right? Like Milwaukee's either going to start to play better or they're not, and if they start to play better, Doc's going to get some credit, and if they don't, Doc's going to get plenty of blame. And how much influence a coach can have when you hire him in the middle of the season and you don't really have time to practice and you're just kind of going to game by game, I'm not sure that that's a real good referendum on that particular coach's ability. But I think if you're Doc at this point, you just bow out all those conversations. You just kind of put your head down and you try to get this team back on track and get them winning. And as far as all the other stuff that goes along with it, I mean, when you open your mouth and say dumb things, then people are probably going to come back at you, is what it comes down to.
Yep. All right, Mike. Anything else you like? Anything else you really want to talk
Okay,
about?
I have two things. I have two things. Quick, two things. LeBron to the Warriors. Thoughts? Give me your
I
30
don't think
second take on that.
I don't think that was a real thing. I don't think that was a real thing. I think that was I know I sent it to you.
You don't think it was a real thing in a sense of
I don't think
what?
LeBron I don't think that was a real I don't think that it was like even close to happening. I don't even think that it
Did he
was.
entertain it? Did he entertain it for 15 seconds?
Well, he said he found out about it when everyone else heard about it. Do you don't believe him? Did you see that on the pregame show? The pregame of I don't know what it was. He said, I found out about it when it was reported by Woj. He's like
Then
he
there
was
has to be
never.
a lot of people lying. There has to be a lot of people lying then if that's true, right?
But what does he have to gain from lying about that? That's my question. Like it's not like his brand is hurt because
But what do those reporters have to
I mean
gain
if
from
if it's him and he says and he this is my argument, Mike. If it's him and says, "Yeah, I heard about it and I was immediately like, no, I don't want to leave the Lakers," then it looks good for the Lakers fandom. But
right?
him saying, "I didn't know about it," that doesn't gain him anything. That doesn't be like, oh, he's doing backdoor deals. No, it means like it doesn't gain him any personal favor with Lakers fans. It doesn't gain him anything for him saying, I knew nothing about it. But if he would have said, yeah, I knew about it, but I immediately said I want to stay with the Los Angeles Lakers, that garners you more, in my opinion, more favoritism towards the Laker fans than.
Yeah, in the meantime, until 2 months from now when he decides he doesn't want to be with the Lakers
But
anymore,
I'm
then
just saying that's my argument, Mike.
no, I
I just
get it.
don't think
Look,
I don't
I
think
know.
he has anything to gain from lying. I don't think he knew about it. I don't think it was. I think maybe they went to Rich Paul and Rich Paul was like, I'm not even going to LeBron with that. He did. He's
Maybe.
not. I
Maybe.
that I now they haven't asked Rich Paul if he knew about it or if Rich Paul talked to LeBron about it. But I would guess that LeBron really legitimately didn't know about it. I'm sticking the fork on that. I don't think it's legit because he doesn't have anything to gain about lying about it. He just doesn't.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I guess I don't really care one way or the other. I think it would have been
It would have been intriguing for sure.
yeah, it would have been
That
incredibly interesting.
that team automatically would have been the favorite in the West.
What
LeBron,
team?
Steph. If LeBron
No.
goes,
God, no.
oh, I mean they're no, they would have been a top 6 team, like, and then you put LeBron and Steph out there.
Hey, maybe a top 16.
Come
They're not a
on,
favorite.
come on, who? Come
No.
on, yes.
Who are you shipping out if you're Golden State?
Well, I don't know what was on the table. Klay
Kaminga had to
Thompson,
be gone.
Klay
Klay
Thompson.
Thompson probably had to be gone. So you get rid of Kaminga and Klay and replace them with
You
LeBron.
got some first round picks, or do they not? Golden State probably has some first round picks. I'm telling you, they would have made it work.
That's
You
all.
would have hit
Yeah.
LeBron. Come on,
No, they're not
Chris
a title
Paul, Steph Curry, LeBron James, Draymond Green. Come on.
Let's get Carmelo. Come on, get Carmelo.
All right, what's
Maybe
the other
get Drew
question?
Gooden. Maybe we get Drew Gooden, Boobie Gibson. Get those guys to the Warriors.
Boobie Gibson probably.
All right, here's my last question. I have one question for the Eastern Conference, one question for the Western Conference. We don't have to go into any detail at all. In the East, where do the Cavs finish?
Third.
Behind
Boston, Milwaukee.
I'm going to say second.
That's what I like to hear, Mike. But I think it's third. I think it's third, and we're gonna draw dead and get New York. That's what's gonna happen.
You think so? You think New York's going to fall in the play-in?
No, I said we're going to third, and they're going to get 6.
The Knicks are going to be 6. Nah, the Knicks aren't going to be 6.
Okay.
Philly's going to fall, right? Philly's got to fall. They're in 5th right now. They're going to fall. Indiana, I don't know. Maybe they get up there. I guess it depends on where the Knicks are with the injuries.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure where Randall is yet coming back, and Anunoby obviously coming off the elbow surgery. So clearly, if those two guys are compromised for the remainder of the season, it makes that Knicks team considerably weaker. Look, if the Cavs can stay healthy, I think they got a really, really good chance at holding on to that number 2 seed. But then to your point, you could end up with the 2 seed and end up playing Miami in the first round, which I'm not sure how excited anybody would be to play Miami as bad as they've been this year. So I think the Cavs are at number 2. You got them at number 3. All right, in the West, who finishes first in the West? Who wins the West? Minnesota's right now a game and a half up on the Thunder, 2 games up on the Clippers, 3 games up on Denver.
Denver, I think, just because they won it last year, so I'm going to go with Denver. But I also don't know how much they care about winning it. To be honest with you, that would be my only concern. I think the Clippers have it in their head that if they're the number one seed, they're the team to beat, even though that's not the case because they still have James Harden on their team. Uh, but I, I'm going to go with Denver. I don't know if I feel good about it, but I'm going Denver. Honestly between for me. I think it's between Denver and the Thunder, and I'm going to go with the Denver. Like I'm going to go with Denver.
All right. I mean, you could make a pretty compelling case for any of those top 4 teams. I'm gonna go with the Thunder. I feel like Denver is not gonna put forth the kind of effort that's required to get to the number 1 seed and hold off these other 3 teams. I think the Clippers, part of me wants to pick the Clippers as good as they've played after that first 5 or 6 game stretch when Harden first got there. They've been really, really good. I just don't trust their health coming down the stretch. They've been super healthy all year, and I just don't know that that's going to sustain. And like I said earlier in our discussion of the All-Star game, I just have a hard time taking Minnesota seriously when you have Carl Towns as an important part of your team. Like
Yeah.
he just seems like he just seems like a big goofball that I'm not sure I want to count on him in big moments. So I'm going to go with Oklahoma City and say Shea's going to get it done and get them to the top of the West, which will also then make for a very interesting MVP race if Oklahoma City finishes first in the West. It'll be, I think, probably come down to him and Jokic unless somehow Milwaukee completely rights the ship and starts challenging Boston in the Eastern Conference. I think it's probably down to a two-man race is my guess.
Yeah.
We'll see. All
All
right,
right.
that was the last thing I wanted to hit on. I don't think I have anything else, and looking forward to the second half of the season, or that's not really the second half, but the last third of the season, getting cranked up and seeing where the Cavs can finish, and just getting ready for playoff basketball here in a couple months.
Yep, and I'm excited to see where the Cavs line up. We got we got Thursday and Friday this week, and one of them's an ESPN game, and we'll just see how it goes. And
All right,
let's go.
sounds like a plan. All right, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it, and we will catch you on our next episode. Thanks.